This is the unfolding story of the commercialization and development of outer space. We follow certain entrepreneurs, public officials, and private citizens that are actively shaping a new kind of space race, and in the process, redefining what it means to explore the cosmos. These people are witnessing Space Shuttle Endeavour, atop its shuttle carrier aircraft, on NASA's last ever ferry flight. The final chapter of NASA's 30-year Space Shuttle program is about to come to a close. With the launch of Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite, humanity enters the space age. 60 years later, the space race between the U.S. and the former Soviet Union ends. And so does the Cold War. Now, governments around the world have joined the race to the stars, making their own great strides in space exploration. But something is brewing in Kern County, California, home to the Mojave Air and Spaceport, where space dreams are made, and it's about to thrust us all into a completely new era.
5, 4, 3, 2, arm.
Today, space missions are not only dictated by governments, but by highly ambitious entrepreneurs in the private sector, who are working tirelessly to ensure the private commercialization of space. Whether you're lucky enough to be able to buy yourself a ticket to space, or if you'd like to invest your money in an asteroid mining company, a future where you can do these things has now become a reality. To understand how the laws are adapting to these changes in commercial space, we traveled to Antelope County, 30 miles from the Mojave Desert, to meet with California State Senator Steve Knight. Senator Knight is the lead author of California's Spaceflight Liability and Immunity Act, which was signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown in 2012, and began providing legal protection for private companies engaged in space activities in California. The law itself is intended to shore up California's space efforts in the face of increased competition from states like New Mexico and Texas, who have also recently passed similar legislation.
In 1959, they designed the X-15, or they designed it during the 50s in 1959. Scott Crossfield got to fly it. And over the next 9 years, until 1968, there was 12 men and 199 flights in the X-15. To this day, NASA will still say this is the most productive spacecraft or platform that they ever created. The X-15 gave hundreds of thousands of pages of data. All of this new look at what men could do in space. It wasn't just going fast, it wasn't just going high, but it was actually controlling in these 300,000 foot ranges. So that was what the X-15 was built for. It was built to get to the higher speeds, it was built to go high, but it was also to control and to figure out where they can go for the next platform. The next platform was the Space Shuttle. So in about 1977, we got the Enterprise Space Shuttle, launched here over Edwards, glided down to a nice soft landing, and that started the whole space shuttle.
This astronaut is the senator's father, William J. Knight, who on October 3, 1967, set the world speed record for manned aircraft by piloting the X-15 to over 4,500 miles per hour, a record that still stands today.
During those 60 years, NASA and the government were in charge. And so if somebody died in space, you couldn't sue. You couldn't sue NASA, you couldn't sue the government. And one of the benefits to that, or the biggest benefit, was you're taking the risk. So we send you up into space, you took the risk, and you died in space. If we sued and we shut the whole program down, then we get no more advancements. So what basically the government said was, you just can't sue. You're going to take the risk. We're going to put you in a situation where it's going to be very dangerous. If you want to do it, then we're going to allow you to do it. My bills basically say the same thing as NASA and the government. You're going to put your name on the dotted line. You're going to sign. You're not signing your life away. You're saying if there was gross negligence, then there could be recourse. Outside of that, you're taking a risk. And I know that some people out there might think, well, that's a very coarse way of looking at it, but it's not. If mankind wants to advance, you have to take risks. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Ford, all of the people who really built America took a risk. They took a risk with their pocketbook, they took a risk with their lives, and if they wouldn't have, we wouldn't be where we are today. America has led this. Yuri Gagarin might have been the first in space, but we have led this for 60 years, and nobody has done what the American people have done. And I don't believe the future is different, and NASA will have a huge part in that. I have no problem with a little bit of my tax dollars going to help NASA explore. And some of that is different than sending people into space. They want to build a huge telescope that will be floating out in space, that'll do things that the Hubble doesn't do, that Sophia doesn't do. So they're going to be a big part of it. And no matter what SpaceX does or Scale Composites, NASA will always be a part of it.
NASA's Commercial Crew program is already reducing dependency on Russia to transport U.S. astronauts to the International Space Station, a necessity that came into being after the retirement of the shuttle program. It is also allowing NASA to focus on missions way beyond low orbit.
If you look at this aircraft right here, it says United States Air Force, NASA. I think at some point you would see Scale Composites, NASA, and maybe a company or 6. You could see that as a collaboration.
On the next episode of Private Space, we visit the headquarters of the private space company XCOR at the Mojave Air and Spaceport, where Dr. Lee Valentine, a champion of commercial space exploration for over 3 decades and director of the Space Studies Institute, helps us examine their flagship spacecraft and tells us about the company's plans for the future.
What are the things that need to happen in order for the future to be an exciting and inspiring one? And I really think there's a fundamental difference if you sort of look into the future between a humanity that is a space-faring civilization that's out there exploring the stars on multiple planets. And I think that's really exciting, and compared with one where we are forever confined to Earth until some eventual extinction event.